Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Terran in the blue. It's Micro Jackson, ByuN. Facing off against the best player from the United States of America in the red, the Battle Mage. We have Astrea in a best of 3 Terran versus Protoss showdown. Whether it's Astrea's perfect planning or ByuN's more reckless aggression, it'd be amazing. Before we get started, if you could smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? It wasn't lazy, it was honest. 1,694 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the first probe, waiting around to see whether it's going to be Marines or Reapers. Astrea, he's got it all timed out. Now, ByuN opening... You know this is not Terran versus Terran, ByuN. That has never stopped him before. I feel like ByuN just has a build locked in, and he's going to run with it. Because no matter what, the finish line is going to be a bunch of Marines and a bunch of medevacs. Though hopefully not the same amount. That wouldn't be a very efficient build. Meanwhile, though, Astrea clearly prepared. He's got a shield battery on the way at the natural. He's got a Reaper wall in the main. But everyone has a plan until they get a Reaper grenade in the mouth. Which should not be an issue for Astrea, as Protoss do not have mouse. So the Reapers jump up, going to spot the Twilight Council, which is the most normal thing they could ever see. And, well, it doesn't rule anything out, besides maybe the quickest... How did the probe get in here? Will be executed for trespassing, but actually gets a bunch of key information. It gets in spots... Well, he didn't see the command center, because it was tucked into the corner there. But he sees the factory without a tech lab, the starport already building, also without a tech lab, the naked factory and starport add up, and if you do the math, you'll find Widow Mine drop, which I'm sure Astrea is working out now. You can also just look at the Widow Mines and see the medevac, and then you'll also find its Widow Mine drop. But you know, that doesn't sound as smart. So, the hallucinated phoenixes, perfectly good for constantly seeing. The Reapers waiting for anything that might sneak outside. And walling off the main, a sentry, a pylon, and a shield battery. The things Protoss players will do to simulate doors. 3 stalkers in the main. Already setting up a spylon to potentially spot for this over to the right side of things. And Blink is still a long way away. So the Widow Mines will be able to burrow. Drops it out. The probes... optimistic. The sacrifice will be offered and accepted. A second Widow Mine pops out, picks up the first one. And an observer is out. The probe's kind of getting in the way of things. Trying to retarget. Ooh, that could have been disastrous. The probes actually get nudged out of the way. There's still a hallucinated Phoenix. Just hanging out, looking around, making everyone feel uncomfortable. But, the barracks to follow it up. The starport flipping over. It's going to be pretty obvious what direction ByuN is going, but not the least bit surprising either. As 2 barracks, a factory, a starport, and we're headed towards Marines, tanks, and believe it or not, medevacs. Widow Mine drop comes back in for another round, just disrespecting the Stalker and Sentry. Gonna sacrifice a probe, and a second sacrifice will deal with the Widow Mines. Meanwhile, in the main base, a Liberator siege is up. The revolving door... Ooh, 1 stalker. There's a little moonwalk blink there. Gets behind it. And there's a... Now, this is kind of burying the lead. Well, the SCV is demonstrating the repair on the siege tank in much the way stalkers can never be unless they have a Protoss teammate and Terran teammate in 2v2. That's okay. That which doesn't kill you leaves you permanently damaged and a constant liability, and arguably not even worth the investment. That's what they said. That's how the saying goes. Storm on the way. A rush to Psionic Storm. I mean, it's not the quickest, but it's certainly not the slowest, as the Templar Archive's the first priority, even before getting charged. So Astrea is going to have a very thin amount of units. 8 Stalkers in total, 1 High Templar, a Sentry, and Observer. Not sure why I included the Observer, but, you know, knowledge is power. All right, guard it wisely. Observer gonna spot all this. 1 SCV repairing, the other SCV letting the other one repair. Typical group project. Medevac loads up, and he's Okay, well, the Observer was worth mentioning, as the Observer clearly caught a glimpse. The Stalkers are stalking the medevac across the map. ByuN taking a pretty greedy pathing, but he did not expect every single one of those Marines taken down as the Stalkers knock it down in a couple valleys. He's looking for the Observer. I think ByuN, doing the little zoom in and out. Fun fact, professional tip. The little zoom in and out of the camera actually makes the Observer look like it's moving. Another reason why many players, unless they're explicitly trying to get that extra vision, won't siege up their Observer because it kind of defeats the purpose anyways. Double drop loaded up the moment ByuN takes out the Stalker. Gambling there's not another Observer. This game could be over very quickly if he loses 2 more medevacs. But yeah, the Observer obviously spotted out, and this is gonna get real weird real fast. Maybe in a fun way, remains to be seen. Siege tanks unleash a huge valley, a suspicious lack of medevacs, now a couple coming out in a world of fire and flames and psionic storm. The Stalker count is dwindling, targets down some more, Templar picks out others. A double drop at the back of the natural, 7 probes already dead. Templar energy recharge, Storm forces him away, and a feedback hits him on the way out. So Astrea knocked out the siege tanks, took out a bunch of the bio, but it did cost him some of his probes. He can chase down these medevacs, but there's really not enough Stalkers to really do much. Meanwhile, the Liberator was denying some of the mining. Gonna target fire the probes with it. Gets a couple more in Astrea. 59 to 56. So as we go into the mid-game, which I would say the mid-game is 100 to 150 supply. You're getting your upgrades, but still need to continue building army, lest you get run over by someone who actually does. 4th base is on the way for Astrea. He's got +1 attack in production. Storm is already completed, and getting the gases on his 3rd, which means he probably wants to tech up further and go for maybe 2 flavors of splash damage. Couple charge lots. Warp Prism in the main. Gonna drag some of the units back. And yes, the charge lots are done, +1, about to follow it up. There's already ghosts in production for ByuN. The charge lot's just gonna be gunned down. This will drag some of the army off the map. Not that much, like 10-15 supply of bio, but the best defense is oftentimes a good offense, as long as you don't lose too many units on said offense. A lot of caveats on that proverb there, but proverb? We'll go with it. We'll run with it. All right, just say it confidently. That's what's important. We're on the internet, okay? All you have to do is say things confidently. You can just make them up on the spot. Like I could say these High Templar, that cape he's got flowing behind him, as long as we're facing in a northerly direction, the storms are going to be 50% more powerful. So make sure to check the wind direction on the map, and you can buy my very new wind direction trackers, a weather vane, not in vain, by the way, if you like and subscribe and check out my Dronelyfans on Patreon. So make sure to get one today. Never be without. Not that Storm needs any more strength, but Stalker hunts down one of the Marauders. Scan for an Observer. He actually missed it, though. Astrea's done a great job of keeping those Observers out of sight, but not quite out of mind. Yeah, he knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. A single Observer, but spotting the most key part of the map. Extended Thermal Lance is on the way. Mine's working its way there as well. More gateways. Astrea, 80 probes. Already a very healthy economy. That Templar, wait, right on the edge of the scan. Of course he knows the Templar are an existential threat. The Storm, though, comes in from the south side, already softens up the front line. A legion of charge lots headed south towards the 3rd base. Couple Templar to follow it up. ByuN, not gonna risk going too far into the heart of the storm. He's just building up at home. He's got a 4th command center on the way. He's working on 2-2 upgrades. He's clearly investing in the future, even though this stage of the game can be very... Oh, he gets him with a Templar. A huge pickoff. An Immortal gonna be taken out as well. Astrea just loses a chunk of his army for absolutely free here. A disrespectful warping in the main. Some charge lots at the 3rd. But ByuN built the wall to keep the Protoss out, and door-based technology has always been a confusing proposition for the Protoss. The supply depot's working perfectly against the Zealotlings. The Warp Prism gets knocked down, and now there's a Fusion Core on the way for ByuN. Working his way up towards that late-game tech. I'm gonna go ahead and make a bold call that he's not rushing to battlecruisers at this stage, but Astrea's thinking in the same direction. Up. Stargate is in production. Astrea, one of the few players who will proactively go for that sky toss late game against Terran. Though, unfortunately, for Astrea, he's kind of misfired a couple attacks, and that means he has to play defense for a while. He's already taken the base down the center. Feedback, I think, just exploderated a ghost from inside out. He's killed 3 of them so far. It won't be the end. More cannons on the way. EMP, though. Those Templar will be in a rushed, abrupt, but happy merge. At least for now, that's what they'll tell people. It wasn't that we got EMP'd. It's just we knew it. When we looked in each other's eyes and we said nothing, because we don't have mouths, we knew we would have a lifetime together. Several minutes, if we're lucky. Fleet Beacon is on the way to complement the fusion core. Neither player knowing the other is headed up the tech tree like a bamboo shoot right now, but both of them anticipating with the base, well, the 4th bases being well established, both of them having access to already the upgrades for their baseline armies, as well as enough gas to potentially tech up. And it looks like we're getting the full ByuN today. So, because ByuN, I think, plays professional StarCraft 2 more than he does anything else in his life, including sleeping, which, I mean, that's called having a job, right? But I digress. Some days, it feels like ByuN is just going to micro the M&M. But some days he adds in the Magos, the Matanks, the Vikings. And instead of shoehorning some sort of silly strategy or analogy in, he has the full spread of Terran capability. And Ghosts and Vikings are the late game, with ranged Liberators to complement them. A fusion core also incredibly useful for Caduceus Reactor, the medevac energy regen. It doubles medevac energy regen, which doesn't allow them to heal faster, but they can keep healing for quite a while. Though if your healing lasts for more than 4 hours, you might want to consider EMPing yourself, because that's just embarrassing. Couple Tempests on the way. And, well, that scan just dropped down in the midst of the main. There's no blocking it.
Complete.
Seeing 2 Stargates at all would already be a tell. Seeing 2 Stargates building Tempests, well, it doesn't take a genius to draw some basic conclusions there. We're going to the supreme late game. All the upgrades being filled in 5 command centers at a time. He's going to have more scan than a Costco self-checkout aisle. And hopefully better customer assistance and less incompetent buffoons there. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't care how long this game is. We don't have time to complain about that. I'm still waiting in line. But double Ruptors on the way. Gonna have Colossi, Disruptors, Templar, and Archons. A tsunami of splash damage. The EMPs on the left side, the Medivacs, and only 1 Archon is not enough splash damage to stop the Terran army from just running through absolute everything. The Templar comes down, cannons being added on. The Colossi, this is a Colossus-friendly cliff. They can trot their way down there. Casual Templar, Storm. I choose to believe the Storm pushed the command center into the sky with its strength. Probably bought one of those weather vanes. But now landed down the center. Charge lots closing in. Eviscerate one of the ghosts. We'll call that a win. And now the turret count is skyrocketing, so the skyrockets can compete. He does have high-sec... Wait. I'm sorry. I reflexively said he had high-sec auto-tracking, but no, he had the fusion core upgrades. Astrea with a very forward pylon. The bases are getting... I mean... They're so close to one another, but not quite in vision range. Tectonic Destabilizer's not quite done. The Vikings, Disruptor shot thrown out, leans into it. He's going with forward cannons. There's a Templar drop behind. Braves it. Massive storm hits the Vikings overhead and everything on the ground. Softens up the majority of the relevant army. Some Oracles on the way. Tectonic Destabilizer's done in a couple seconds. Will help him rip through. And a forward set of cannons. A forward operating base here for Astrea. Shield batteries on the way. Pylons to warp in. And, well, pylons are the powerhouse of the Protoss. ByuN scanning north. Seeing if there's any outlying bases he could deal with. EMP's skirting the edge of things. Disruptor shot clips a single ghost. Screw that ghost in particular. But EMP plus Vikings, he's already got +2 ship weapons, which is quite strong in general, and specifically for the Liberators in dealing with Stalkers, and of course for the Vikings in dealing with Mass Tempest. He's building 2 more Stargates. He's already got 7 Tempests, looking to duel the Vikings in the sky. And the Tempests are only 4 supply in the last patch, which is like a year ago, but relatively recent in the grand scheme of things. Moved from 5 to 4 supply, making them a little bit easier to mass up. But Vikings at 2, obviously a little bit easier than that. Looks like a couple just waded through the storm. Some charge lots are warped in, but the Marines and Marauders are standing their ground with the Medivacs constantly healing overhead. The Vikings will knock down another Tempest, trading fire. If he trades 2 Vikings for 1 Tempest, overall that's a win. Not sure that's exactly what he's going for. And Tempest cannot be repaired. The sustainability here. The Tempests have to come deal with this. Quite a disproportionate response. Loses 11 probes. There's a mothership on the way. +3 armor on the ground and +1 in the sky is about to complete. 3-3 already done for ByuN. He queued up high-sec auto-tracking and building armor behind his 3-3 infantry weapons and armor. But already 27,000 resources lost, relatively low, as both players slipped into the fall macro game pretty quick, but it's still been quite an exchange. Astrea tried to get the damage done. It did not succeed, and now he's been forced to pull back a little further. Unfortunately, the exposed edges will be harassed by the Liberators while he's fighting overhead, and every second counts when you're in these fights. Anything. So, between EMP, Disruptors, Tempest Valleys in general, Storm, literally 1 second could be the end of the game. It probably won't. But looking the wrong way or the very right way for 1 second could win or lose you the game easily. And that's why those Liberators are such a big deal. That's why usually things like charge lot run-bys are very important. Because they might not get the critical damage done, but attention per minute is arguably more valuable than actions. Because without attention, the actions are useless. Or won't even be made at all. Penta Tempests on the way. 5 Tempests at a time. Astrea using them to max out. He's already got cannons across the board. 19 turrets, 24 cannons. The tower offense on both sides. Templar EMP'd and then shot in the face, which insult and then grievous injury. Exchanging fire. Very expensive units on both sides being lost. The Vikings. Storm, a great historical and practical counter. The Viking count at 10 against 7 Tempests. As long as they can... So Tempests suffer from a hive mind mentality. They can overkill incredibly hard. Fire it. Come back here. Hey. When I catch up to you, I'm gonna be... Yep, that's a mothership. Beyond a scan of disbelief. A nuclear missile is on the way. Using his most massive option. Disruptor shot. Gets a ghost or 2. Continues trading back. The Tempest exchanging with the Vikings. The mothership wandered a little too far forward, and it takes a surprising amount of hits to tickle the Liberator to death. Though motherships are a more dangerous DPS option than they once were, they're still not really your hard carry there, if you would. By using the mothership at all in this matchup, in order to potentially reposition or defend the bases on the outside. Are those? No, those medevacs are at full energy, not no energy. It's a little bit hard to tell with the damage health bars. But the sensor towers scattered throughout the map. The nuclear missile is on the way. Nuclear launch detected. Right down the center. And did we just see the shadow over here? That's crazy. Recalls up to the top left corner. And honestly, the nuke, not just as a distraction, but to break through the defenses. Maybe if he can get a few cannons and pylons with each one. Yeah, nukes cost 100 apiece. which adds up quickly, but if he's able to break through the defenses at these bases, it makes it a lot easier for the rest of the units to do so. A time warp around the corner, but the Vikings not caring too much about it. I assume there are some Templar under there, but good luck figuring out exactly where. Yeah, there's one. Another Templar coming down, just exploderates a ghost. And more being picked off by the Tempest from afar. Oracle wanders right into the Vikings and gets annihilated, but the Tempest continue to chip away one volley at a time. Another EMP on the corner, but Astrea's closing in. He has a huge amount of money in the bank, and he's willing to leverage it. Continuing forward over the top, the mothership with the army. Active cloaking. All its abilities are on cooldown. Not that cloaking would be incredibly useful against someone who has 7 orbital commands. But the EMPs are landing. The Tempests are overstaying their welcome. They weren't very welcome at all. Down to 5 Tempests. 13 Vikings to challenge them. Those Viking volleys almost one-shotting the Tempest. Time Warp, though, as well as Storm Wombo combo holds them in. And for the most part, only knocks out a couple, but there's still a couple Colossi on the high ground. The terrestrially bound units struggling. Trying to A-move onto the cliff and suffering for it as the Colossi standing tall. The Vikings, honestly, the Colossi almost buffering for the Tempest. Astrea not giving up on the Tempest. 5 more in production. Long distance mining. Another Tempest taken down. Snipes out a couple Templar. That is a nasty position to be in. But it keeps working out for him as Astrea not shifting into anything else, not trying carriers. Now, carriers are not necessarily the answer. They're a lot more supply, they're very expensive to maintain, and one bad fight means your army is just done. It's hard to take a horrible fight with Tempests. Alright, you can take a bad one, but Tempests are much better at disengaging than the carriers, if that makes sense. The carriers, on the other hand, have to stick around, fling out all their interceptors, and watch them spin around like a bunch of fancy space magic bees for a while in order to get the damage done. And against someone like ByuN, mothership versus missile turret, who wins? At first, that was a joke, but actually, apparently the missile turret. I mean, with a little bit of repair, I think it would relatively easily win. That was uncomfortably close. Another nuke down the center. Astrea backing off, but maybe distracted for a split second as the Vikings come around the corner. The mothership's on the other side of the map. There's no time warp to be had. Flings out a couple disruptor shots to ward him away, but almost everything that can be killed by the Vikings will be. There's almost no storm left. A lot of the Vikings in the red, but they're not quite dead. The stalker count is dwindling. The supply plummets. And ByuN, the nuke lands. Another nuke is on the way. The mothership might be able to take out the ghost in episode 2 of motherships killing things that they're much, much, much bigger than. And they're looking a little ridiculous. Mothership not really a cleanup sort of unit, but here we are. Now, Astrea warped in another legion of units, 16 gateways with which to do so, but that was definitely a costly fight. He lost so many. He's lost 28 Tempests to 55 Vikings. That 2-to-1 ratio is working out for ByuN so far. Astrea still has money in the bank. He still has this forward base setup, and he still has... He actually doesn't have that many probes. 57 probes. And now the nukes will set their sights on the base down the center. Well, base, forward operating base. The cannon outpost. About to be a cannon outpost. 5, 6 cannons and a couple shield batteries knocked out. Feedbacks from the high ground. Templar just chilling there. I think it might actually be walled in by the cannons. You know, O Templar of the mountain, tell us your wisdom. 8 ghosts, 8 Terran. No Protoss. Simple as. Okay. A recall up to the top left knocked out the base again. Was a bit optimistic. Templar coming down. Storm interrupts the targeting. Another ghost coming around the corner. A couple disruptor shots. looked very bad right up until they didn't. End up killing 1 or 2 ghosts, but not much else supply. Now there's a traffic jam as everybody's scrambling to get behind the cannons. It'll cost them another couple Tempests. Where are the storms? Energy recharge just came off cooldown. And now another Legion. The mothership is wandering into the fight just in time. And that time warp is massive. Where are the Templar, though? He needs the storms desperately. The mothership is taken down. That one Templar at the back. Though the charge lots are closing in, eviscerating everything underneath. A single Immortal has survived all this. The ghosts have cloak. There's no detection. The cloak ghosts are dealing with it, but they don't have that much energy left over. Yeah, he's building 2 oracles. How many observers are left? Just 1. And it's on the other side of the map. Oh, no. Astrea manages to turn a fight around with the massive warp and the flanking mothership. He's building 8 probes at a time. But when the smoke clears and the cloak runs out, ByuN maintains a 20 supply lead. Astrea has drained the entirety of his bank. He once had a massive surplus, but he wasn't able to break through the bases efficiently. The sheer Viking count, the Tempests, he keeps throwing them into the Vikings. 33 Tempests dead to 61 Vikings. Would carriers have been a better option? At this point, there's no affording them. Alright, carriers are a rich man's unit. And it's hard to justify when you can't even get to 200 supply. Another Templar is taken out, but ByuN. Liberator poking at the ends of the earth. Another nuclear missile is launched into the atmosphere. Don't worry, if they take out the ghost, they'll just keep going. What? Cleaning up the defenses. Might even get a couple probes with it. I don't know if he noticed it at all. Observer speeds its way directly into the turrets. The Liberator with 6 kills. The fire and fury continues throughout the map, but Astrea definitely... Things seem to have slipped away from it. Some stasis wards down the center. Needs that revelation, but doesn't want to risk the Viking fire. Stalkers blink forward. EMP takes out the stasis easily. Fadeaway Disruptor shot comes up completely short. Didn't actually take out the Nexus. A Tempest will be tasked with taking out the Liberator in the bottom right, the probes mining. ByuN, still not mining from nearly as many bases. But he's also been significantly more efficient once he's put this Sky Terran, not quite Death Ball, but this Sky Terran composition together. You can't really have a full Death Ball as Terran, or you run the risk of the literal Death Balls of the Protoss just completely annihilating you. The 2 Disruptors, as well as a potentially Storm. The base is taken out, though. Stimming forward. Revelation gives him a good track on it. A Ghost launches a nuke into the bottom right corner, and I think just waltzed right into the cannons as he launched it. So, that one will just fly off into the sunset to create a new one. Tempest still working overhead. Astrea still with an incredibly dangerous army. He's 2 or 3 storms away from completely rewriting this game. But ByuN has been so incredibly active. He always has so many ghosts. He's blanketing EMPs whenever anything resembling a Templar gets close. Another nuclear missile on the way. It doesn't show up in the units lost. 5 or 6 of them so far. I think the nukes have been well worth it. Even if all they've done, and it's more than this, but even if all they did was keep Astrea distracted, they've definitely had that value. The EMP, the double EMP from the Ghost, wipes out everything on the army on the high ground. The Disruptor is not disrupted, but everything else already softened up. Fadeaway shot, tries to find something, but doesn't. The Vikings will be coated by the storm. There's some more on the low ground. ByuN just wading through it with absolutely everything. The medevac still with so much energy. More Archons popped as well. The Nexus is going to finish to the north, will be easily dealt with. A counterattack of Zealots and Templar. This looks like a co-op mission counterattack. There's 2 High Templar and a bunch of charge lots. The SCVs are being cut down. And ByuN is actually maxed out and building only Vikings and Liberators. So this is doing a surprising amount of damage. Their 2 bases lifted. He's cutting through more of the infrastructure. ByuN doesn't have anything at home to deal with this. Sounds like a typical co-op mission to me. Always at the worst time. But there's 4 Vikings overhead, wondering where everything went wrong. He's going to land them very optimistically. Another Viking landed and killed a Templar, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, obviously the charge lots are going to be enough. Trying to fight here. Brawls with the army on the field. 2-3 Disruptor Volley chunks up a lot of the Terran. But does he have anything to follow it up? No. He's got an Immortal at 1 and now none HP. But the Storms, a massive Storm to open it up, and another one softens up the Vikings. The charge lots, they've reached their preset kill limit. An Orbital's burning. A Venn diagram of freedom will ping cushion the Zealots as they try to chop through the starport. The Planetary Fortress is a more optimistic target for the Zealots, but storms through the SCVs, almost able to target down the Templar with the Planetary. And Astrea with this... Honestly, that's what he's been missing. He didn't bother with Dark Templar, all above board, just the mass charge lot counter. He finally found the supply and the time to send out 20 charge lots and a couple Templar and ByuN. He didn't have enough army supply on the ground. He needed the boots on the ground to deal with it. Though, he still has plenty. It's 200 to 174 supply Astrea. 60 probes, which means his army supply is even smaller in comparison. The Oracle's caught out in front and knocked out immediately. There's still a bunch of charge lots to the south. Not that charge lots are going to be great. Honestly, the Ghosts, with just their auto attack, are perfectly fine here. The Planetaries gonna knock out ByuN manually targeting the Templar. So even though the charge lots will eventually slice their way through them, it was definitely worth it. But the gateway counters may be the best and only hope for Astrea here. His high-tech army has been all but broken. He's had to devolve back to gateway units to get the job done, but so far they're working hard at it. Chopping through more barracks, working on another base, and he's still mining. Well, there's another Liberator in the bottom right corner. Just constantly whittling down the probe count. The bio's coming down again. Astrea down to 140 supply. Still has the Templar of the Mount for a potentially devastating set of storms. The Tempest count damn high. This one Liberator, 9 kills, you know they're all probes. Things slow down as neither player willing to commit a significant percentage of their... The Templar just gets sniped from the low ground. An unfortunate, but probably predictable end. Revelation. Every once in a while, a new probe wanders in. No! 13 kills. Astrea down to 42 probes. Now, neither player knows exactly what the supply of their opponent is. Astrea, in a game like this, it could be... ByuN could be just as broke. He doesn't know. And ByuN isn't much better off in the grand scheme of things, considering how much has happened. But we can tell, of course, that things are not going well for the American Protoss as nuclear hellfire rains down on his bases. The probe count, this is as close as he's going to get in supply. An absolutely incredible Category 10 storm, ground and air. It doesn't get any better than that. He couldn't dream of a better set of storms. But maybe needs to dream a little bigger. The Ghosts are holding their ground against the Zealots. The Vikings hit the deck, are actually quite good against the Stalkers on the ground. Just a couple Tempests left. That northern base has changed hands, even though there's still a couple assimilators there. That was about the best fight Astrea was ever going to get. But it's just looking be unstoppable right now. ByuN has too much, and he's held on to it for too long. Astrea has lost 10,000 more resources, 3,000, just half a base more. But 48 Tempests versus 99 Vikings. 40 Ghosts, 39 High Templar, 150,000 resources. And the way you know it's close is they're both struggling to build 1 or 2 units at a time. Well, I guess ByuN has a little bit more going for him. He's mining from 2.5 bases. Astrea is mining from 2.5 mineral patches. Okay, it's a little better than that, but not by much. Long distance mining is certainly not the ideal. The probes pulled away. Liberator offered up. Very kind of him. But ByuN, he has the army supply. The orbital will burn in the most appropriate place to do so. Wait, he's gonna try to save it. What a save. What a save! But in the end, will it even matter? Now, ooh, the Stalkers wander into some EMPs. The SCV, would you stop? So for all those commenters, why don't they ever repair their medevacs and Vikings and all that? Well, ByuN is trying to follow him around with a couple repair SCVs, but of course the medevacs will not stop moving. He is trying to do so. Sounds like ByuN is so rich. Another storm from the trees. Another couple feedbacks. Disruptors flung out. A critical hit on the ghosts. Again. But it feels like those disruptor shots only happen when it's already too late for them to turn the tide. Another half dozen ghosts getting obliterated by the Purification Nova. ByuN, okay, 130, it's over. But I don't hear your mother singing yet, so we're not... Boost all the medevacs just for one to get away. Finally dropping again for the first time in like half an hour. After the ill-fated drop to the north. This observer at half HP, which means it's definitely seen some... Well, that's kind of its job, but... Again, we're having some diplomatic relations. A trade agreement here. Between the probes and the SCVs. It doesn't seem like the Terrans are going to let that happen. Another set of EMPs. A Templar on the high ground. Again, Astrea doesn't know exactly how broke or how not broke ByuN is. While he still has Templar and he still has Disruptors, he still has a dream. He still has some mineral patches to work with. It's just the chances are dwindling by the second. There are still a few minerals on the map. I didn't think we'd get to the bean counter phase, but here we are. Where we start counting each and every mineral patch and how much gas is left to drag out of that geyser. But EMPs pops a Ruptor. There's another Ghost, or a Templar to the north. Feedback storm's pretty good. Pops another medevac out of the sky. Another clutch of charge lots down the center. Astrea fighting metaphorical tooth and more literal nail. The base is dried up. That Templar on the high ground, but oh no. ByuN lands the shot. The charge lot's gonna try something. Half of them get EMP'd. Ghost Cloak. Gonna just walk by all the charge lots. Astrea try to body block. GG, WP. Astrea showing respect. After that feature-length experience. 51 Tempest, 104 Vikings. 160,000 resources lost. A couple poor fights, especially early on, making it so Astrea couldn't quite capitalize on his superior economy. ByuN, with his infinite patience. Like I said, some days it feels like ByuN has somewhere to be, and that is in another tournament later that day. And some days, he's willing to sit back. I've never seen anyone offer more draws than ByuN. Some of them justified. But even draws that don't necessarily, like 45 minutes, if you haven't seen, you know what game I'm referencing, but 45 minutes in, offering a draw. It didn't happen here. He was able to hold it together. But Astrea unable to break ByuN's flexible defense. And it will cost him. Game 1. Jimmy! Sorry. Like and subscribe so I can get some actual help. Mental or physical. Or both, really. Wow, we're playing Last Fantasy. As game 2. Now, this is our only 3-player map in the pool. Not like there are more than 3-player. It's our only non-2-player map in the pool would be more of the idea I'm trying to get across. Now, most players either veto this or just want to get it out of the way. Because if the map isn't a reskin of one of our 2 normal maps, most players don't want to even interact with it. Because, well, from a practical perspective as a professional, you don't want to introduce more variables. The majority of the time, there isn't RNG. There's not a good chance, like, maybe this time I'll spawn on the side with a healing shrine. No. None of that happening. My wood line is not going to be exposed to his archers penetrating me from afar. And we're not doing phrasing, by the way. But instead, now, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I would love for a game on this map to go more than 10 minutes. I don't think I've ever seen it. Okay, I've seen a couple. But it's mostly, they both try it all in and fail, and we kind of struggle our way into the mid-game. So, but I think we could do an entire TEDx talk about that last game. We won't, but so far it's a relatively macro start, and in fact just a single Reaper this time from ByuN. So, there was an opportunity, maybe, to go carriers. Astrea clearly convinced the Tempest were the way. I think the nukes made the difference. The nukes, we didn't see, you never are going to see an exception proving the hard rule there. You're never going to see the nuke that ends up in clips for 14 years, usually happening when the game is already won. It doesn't. The red dot is ingrained on players. Seeing it on the field, they know. There's a reason why nukes are very rarely used. But I think ByuN, the perfect use case. 1, it's valuable to knock out the defenses. And 2, multiple times when the nukes were launched and nuclear launch detected was thrown out onto the map. Astrea was clearly looking, even for a half second. That half second is the difference between the EMPs landing on all your Tempests and the Vikings already taken out too, and you hitting the storms first and firing off the disruptor shots. Those armies are so inordinately dangerous to each other. So I think both the timing and the usage and the placement of the nukes was a deciding factor. That and whether or not carriers are actually good. So who knows? Carriers may as well have expedited the process of losing the war of attrition. But Astrea definitely more experienced than possibly anyone else at that sort of late game unit composition, especially against Terran. The medevac, okay. Enough about that. And something about that, is he just going to show him the Whittle Mines? Yep, those are Whittle Mines. All right. And then he's just... He knows there's at least one. This is just disrespectful. ByuN, the probes. Oh, offering up the sacrifice. And ByuN gonna try to slip in and get out. Oh, emotional support field is thrown out. Doesn't do anything besides mildly inconvenience the mine, but still. Blink is nearly done. A Raven is the next choice. Meanwhile, ByuN setting everything up back at home. We got barracks number 3 coming online. Barracks 2 landed on the tech lab, and Barracks 1, been reactoring for a while. 4 Stalkers. Meanwhile, though, the Widowmine drop ends up getting 5 probe kills. Both myself and Astrea clearly distracted. Meanwhile, auto turret attempted. Oh, come by the shield battery, Timmy. Come here, take a slurp. Why are shield batteries so weird? Their mothership core left them a long time ago. No. Robo Bay is the choice right off the bat. Astrea swerving in the other direction. We had a Templar Archives last game, Storm the choice. And honestly, Storm kind of the default now. But the Robo Bay definitely could catch ByuN off guard and already charged behind it. So anticipating a 2-base tank push. And lo and behold, the hallucinated Phoenix will be scouting the 2-base tank push. The triple threat's on the way. The Raven jammed into the corner, but the auto turret gets a couple more kills. We've got Stim, Combat Shield, and +1 simultaneously. I think the Raven spotted the Robo Bay. The Stalkers are trading with... Well, trading is a bit generous. You just lost a couple Stalkers, which... Okay, 1 Stalkers, and the rest are badly bruised and permanently damaged. Well, now 2. Thank you for at least making me correct. Posthumously. Observer will spot this, not that it will come as much of a revelation. Yeah, okay, well, made it too obvious there. Raven still lurking, menacingly. Still fighting with the Stalkers. Loses another one. 4 Stalkers lost. There's no concussive. The Stalker just gives up. Like, you earned it. Wow, a lot of the so many Stalkers taken out. This is becoming a deadly force. And that main base is looking wide open. Astrea didn't build anything near the edge of the base, but that might not matter, as medevacs are in play. A Colossus is done. Incredibly importantly, scans forward. Instead of backing off, he's just going to siege up the tanks. Now picks up and goes towards the main. ByuN going to drop the base. Raven comes in, slaps down an auto turret, going to pick off a few more probes around the edge before they get back to the shield battery. Can't protect everyone. Meanwhile, though, the medevac barely slips out. Will escape. Astrea able to shove this away, at least for now. The yeah. I mean, the Raven knows it's hallucinated, but he tried to use the hallucinated Phoenix to put... Wait, the Stalker could have just shot it the whole time? That Raven got Edgar Allan Poe'd. Nevermore, you know what I'm saying? It's still funny. It's still funny. That was quite a unceremonious death. Apparently there's not enough space. Or he didn't find the sweet spot. Though these maps, despite their kind of natural nature here... That was a terrible sentence. The last few sentences haven't been great, alright? Though they're all great. They're all smart. Great words. The YouTube comments say so. And, I mean, who's a better judge? But... unclear whether or not there's a sweet spot where you can hide from the Stalkers, but it seems like no. But just barely. Either way, clearly intended to deter camping in that sense. The vision from Astrea. Once again, knowing the map is dark and full of Terrans. Sending out charge lots, observers. Constantly setting up. Vikings being added on. Storm as well. But overall, besides that initial attack, it feels like we're just kind of speed running up to the late game. No sort of mid-game engagement, no attempted break, no warp prism slipping by. The drop in the main was rebuffed. And now everybody's shooting up to 200 supply. Well, it looks like for one of, if not the first time, we're gonna see a full-on macro game on this map. With both players already at 4 bases, or working towards it. I assume ByuN is, yeah, 4th command center. Charge lots taken out. Another group of them headed south. Even more gates on the way. Astrea leaning into that 4-base economy. Still building probes as well. You gotta be a little careful past like 80-ish probes, because if you go too high on the probe count, we already saw the danger of not having enough supply to deal with the incredibly efficient Terran. So, 80 probes though, a perfectly good economy to potentially leverage and use that warp gate in order to overwhelm. Scanning, just sending the factory out. Is the factory now obsolete? The middle child. I'm sure some of you know how that feels. Born too late to be efficient against gateway units. Born too early to control the skies. The factory. The HD DVD of TVP tech. The Zune. Okay, that's not really fair. That's not good. Well, the HD DVD is like the same example. But I digress. A second robo on the way. 3 more command centers for ByuN, now that he's maxed out investing in the future. Chrono boosting. Warp prism speed as well. ByuN just throwing scans out there. Spotted the observer down the center in the speed zones. The WLOs here, which increase the speed of everything by about 1/3. Not sure if we have, yeah. The acceleration zones is what they're technically called, but does not increase attack speed. I guess for melee, oh, storms down the speed zones. But movement speed of both ground and air units increased dramatically. So both running into the fight and getting out of it. We thought it was dangerous before. All right, now we're upping it by like 30%. 2 more starports on the way. Five command centers at a time for ByuN. +1 air. Oh, wait a second. Astrea. He's still pretending like he's going for the ground army, but +1 air weapons has already started. Which means, well, we're just speed running to the skies. So fast we're creating lift, apparently. Though I don't think that's how Protoss work. They just kind of use their space magic to levitate. Mass Viking already. Of course, the Colossi demand it. They insist upon themselves. A nuclear missile's on the way. Stalkers blunk forward. Now everybody piling into this engagement. 4 more commands. How many command centers? He's gonna have double-digit command centers. And wow, the map is, there's so many bases. I think like 20, 22, which an average map usually has 16 or 18. Sometimes an odd number with a contested base like Persephone. But a fleet beacon is on the way as Astrea takes to the skies yet again. And a fusion core is on the way as ByuN takes to the skies yet again. And Jimmy, we can't play it more than 15 seconds. Fair use. All right. No, well, we should keep the beacons for the Protoss. We come up with something else for the Terrans. I don't care if they get upset. Sorry. Copyright nowadays. Let's going to be 3 Stargates. The exchanges have been mostly superficial so far. Astrea is building 6 probes. He's already at 93 probes. He's going to have 99 problems. And 99 probes are all of them. That's actually too many. All right, 90 is pushing it past the edge. 100. Wow. 99 probes. ByuN has 80 SCVs, so his army supply isn't huge at the moment. 120, obviously, but... And that's because the main base isn't even quite yet mined out. So, you've still got a lot of bases to work with. Go straight climbing forward in economy. There's enough scans to just throw a volley. If you have 5 orbital commands, you have enough energy to scan at all times, one after another. That's not usually how it goes, but just to give you an idea. The Colossi trotting their way... Wait. Can they step on this? Step on me. Charge lots. Very excited to run into the Widow Mine because it becomes revealed the moment it fires the shot. There's no drilling clause. More starports on the way. Astrea's still maxed out. He's warping in some more Templar. He's got over 9,000 minerals. And 5,000 gas. He's building 7 more probes, which is way too many, by the way. Okay, we are well past the line here. The line was 20-something probes ago. It's time to stop. 105 probes. 3 observers. You know observers are the only Protoss army unit that's 1 supply? Fun fact. Which means 3 supply just died back to back there. Make that 4. Mothership on the way. ByuN scanning the entire base just to keep tabs on things, but right now Astrea has 7 Nexi. It hasn't been no rush 15 minutes, obviously, but definitely a more passive start, as both players have streamlined their route up to this level of tech and economy. And I think it's partially just the map as well. There's just these bases right down the center. Just normal bases. Usually these would be like a rich Vespine or something, but no. It's a normal base hanging out in the center of everything. The inner circle. Some more Templar charge lot setups here. Potentially could get it. I mean, it would be a huge storm, but killing 20 Marines right now might actually help ByuN. The Immortals caught in a traffic jam. More storms to ward away. And 3 carriers enter production. Not sure this is how he wanted to free up supply. Maybe having less than 105 probes, but his income is redonkulous, and the storms are cataclysmic. Thankfully, they have time to contemplate the recovery as the medevacs are able to heal the ghost through. It takes 2 storms to kill a ghost if they don't have any medevacs overhead. Another Templar. An opportunity squandered. The Vikings doing push-ups over on the side. They can't decide whether they want to be on the ground. They get back down. They get up again. And then they get back down, and then they contemplate life for a while. Like and subscribe for Existential Dread. But Astrea just doesn't have the army. Thankfully, ByuN killed some probes, which means Astrea can build some units. So far, he hasn't replaced those probes immediately. What in the 1400s England is this? Vikings are invading the ramp here, breaking through the defenses, and landed Vikings on the ground. Cloak Ghosts. This is... He has detection, right? I think some of them are detected by the cannons, but the rest of them aren't. The carriers are revealed, but the ghosts are not. Is he going to lose the first carrier to Cloak Ghosts? And wow, Ghosts do actually pretty good damage. I guess they only have +1 armor. The Vikings have racked up the kills in the base. Once again, I'm not sure if killing probes is doing anything but helping Astrea here. He's down to a much more reasonable number, but he's quickly fixing that. The Ghosts run out of Cloak. And soon, they're going to be running out of life. So they try to sprint across. Another Ghost. Cloven in twain on its way out. The only factory unit on the map. Okay, there's 2 siege tanks, but Liberators now. We're piling into another fight. The single carrier. Wait, no. 2 carriers and a mothership. Sounds like a sitcom. ByuN forced back off one of his bases. Astrea's bank drained somewhat, but ByuN actually has nothing in the bank. He's at 200 supplies, building 5 more medevacs. He's going to have 10 medevacs and 12 liberators. Liberators with their anti-air attack actually pretty decent against the carrier interceptors, but not the carriers themselves. All right, eminent domain. Astrea will be claiming this base. ByuN gonna try to claim it back. Looks like the probe decided I didn't want it anyways. I think the base was still there when I was trying to build. Meanwhile, though, armies piling down to the south. Now that they both have so ridiculously much, he goes with a bait and switch. The mothership recalled to the north, but I feel like he recalled so far back that ByuN will react in time. ByuN scanning to spot for the army because why not? He has 10 orbital commands. Oh my. The Liberators. The Templar finding some big storms. Though the EMP is in that beachhead of freedom there. Will be more than enough. The cannons. How many times have the cannons tripped up the ground units and cost them many more times than their cost in their death? That sentence made sense. Unlike Astrea if he keeps up these inefficient fights. But taking out even more of the interceptors. The interceptor counted. So, at just a couple dozen. Needs to fling them out. Disrupt their shots through the alleyways of the base. The missile turrets are knocking down even more. He has high-sec auto-tracking and building armor, of course. We've gotten to the supreme late game here. The upgrade's nearly maxed out. It's +3 weapons, +2 armor, and +1 shields, but soon to be +2 shields for Astrea. ByuN has +3 everything important. Neglecting mech weapons for the 2 siege tanks that... Well, they're house tanks now. Is he actually moving one of them? Yes. Alright. He remembers. Is this happening again? If I had a nickel for every time I watched a mothership hunt down a Liberator, I'd have 2 nickels in this series. Now, that's not a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. I mean, the mothership usually somewhere the rest of the army is not, which is also where the Liberators want to be. So, a recipe for drama and hijinks. Nuclear launch detected! Is what I would say if I was an announcer in the game. Thankfully I am, but usually it just goes, no! Jimmy, you know what to do. Make it louder. That is a very dead Templar. That is an incredibly disproportionate response. Now, no probes here. Astrea still with a massive amount of money in the bank, but ByuN is starting to catch up. The only really contested base is to the 6 o'clock. The Liberator's out in front, but the carrier count is high enough, and the interceptors are now out on the field. They've all been launched, at least for now. That's probably the hardest part of this fight. The mothership is trying to outflank, which seems optimistic. Oh, this is so sad. Look away. Time warp. A backup double planetary with turrets out in front. The full fortress defense. Astrea's once again taken the 6 o'clock. Wait, was this the I choose to believe this is the Liberator that the mothership let live. And now we've reached season 2 and it's a recurring character. Or is it 3 now? Because game... Anyways, it feels like another nuke. Disruptor shot clips the ghost, but the nuke will land and wipe out the cannons. And again, ByuN efficiently chipping through. Doesn't have quite the magnitude of nukes this time around. Only one, wait, no, I think he has 3 Ghost Academies. 4! Huge storms on the Vikings, though. Still able to knock down some of the carriers, but the interceptors are out in the sky. It's a real critical mass thing. That pylon! The powerhouse of the Protoss warps in. A critical mass of zealots, and Astrea turns the fight completely around. The carrier is able to wipe things out of the sky, and there wasn't a critical mass underneath them. With a dozen zealots being warped in mid-fight, ByuN not noticing the one pylon to rule them all. And not able to deny it, and suddenly ByuN down to 160 supply and scrambling to build as much as he can. Astrea still with plenty of money in the bank. The carriers are going forward, though the interceptors are getting strung out. Trying to keep them in flight. Keeping the interceptors out of the carriers. Alright. It is one of the hardest parts of these fights. Why carriers are so inefficient against top-tier players, where you kind of want to be getting in and out of the fight quickly. Alright, doing the hokey-pokey with carriers does not go very well. Because the carriers got to stare at the interceptors and watch them buzz around from at least, you know, shouting distance. Metaphorically, of course. Protoss don't have pallets, but the zealots will spot and try to slow down Mule Street. Could have done better with that one. As, wow, Mule Canyon has been dug out of the income graph as ByuN, denied bases to the north, has decided he's just going to expedite mining to the south. He still has 9 orbital commands, 5 planetary fortresses, 15 command centers. He's lost 6 of them. So over 20 command centers built this game. He recalled to the south, and this base may change hands again. Active cloaking is not going to matter at all, as there's always like 4 scans in the fight. Time Warp Mothership tanks the damage, but maybe buys the space. EMPs, Archon merge. The Templar, no more Templar involved. The carriers, actually he's closing it. Well, ByuN down to 140 supply. That siege tank on the high ground still participating in the group activity. One of the carriers is rallied across the map and will be a consolation prize. But Astrea will maintain 200 supply. But again, look at the bank. Carrier's a rich man's unit. ByuN helping him out with that potential upkeep. Building each interceptor at 15 apiece on top of the carrier itself at 350. That is a continuing drain on the income, despite the sheer amount of bases. And ByuN with dead even army supply. Astrea fighting just one planetary here, a Venn diagram of freedom overhead. So far, the Stalkers trying to move. Oh, no, move command. Oh, no. It looked okay, but he just jostled around for a moment, and Astrea ends up losing another dozen or so units to some of the highest DPS in the game. The Liberators, the Planetary Fortress, the Ghosts. Astrea has lost 200 interceptors and counting. ByuN is holding on. I don't know why I'm saying it like Astrea is behind. Astrea is still nearly maxed out. ByuN is struggling to put 170 supply on the field. There's 6 carriers. There's 12 Archons, but there's enough Ghosts to make those Archons. Well, that. And just like that, Astrea's army evaporates in the blink of a stalker. 12 Archons, 50 army supply, just ByuN Terran through them. The EMPs wiping out it doesn't matter what your upgrades are, the overwhelming majority of shields. The reason why you don't usually rely on Archons in any significant capacity in this matchup. But Astrea leaning on them. And honestly, they can't take much weight at all. ByuN, the most patient. Every single map, every single base on the map, except maybe this very center base was taken on Last Fantasy. So I got what I wanted. Well, what I wanted was Astrea to win, but maybe a little bit of bias there. I admit it. But, wow, another epic late game. And I think honestly, the carriers seemed okay. but he couldn't really find the engagement, bringing the Templar and the carriers together. It's a tall order. And just a little bit too tall for Astrea this time around. That's Astrea in a nutshell. He has everything, but it doesn't always come together perfectly. And then it all falls apart. ByuN, on the other hand, will slap together with a box of scraps and a stick of bubble gum and boom, build. Here we go. Somehow it's still Marines and Medivacs, but I digress. It's time to wrap it up, and hopefully you enjoyed at least as much as I did. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. I know this was a disjointed gas, but kind of a disjointed series. That's my excuse. We'll go with that. And if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons. We saw how valuable they are. Big Jiggy, Devin, Dor, Kate, Mario, and Suit. I just still enjoy. And to everyone, thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.